morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are
You may
you?
notice a new
Tuesday.
face here. We got Rocki Howard sitting in for Joel today. Joel, hopefully everything's going good with you, man. We'll look forward to seeing you back. But for now, we are blessed to have the one and only Rocki Howard in the house.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Joel, I miss you, Joel. It was so good to see you at Transform, but I'm glad to be here filling in this morning.
Well, Rocki, before we get started, quick introduction for anyone. I don't know anyone who does not know who you are, but if anyone does not know, tell us who you are and what you do best.
Oh, well, I am, Danielle will appreciate this word, and I'm a multi-hyphenate, right? So,
Yep.
hi, everyone. I'm Rocki Howard. I'm the founder of the now award-winning Diversiology.
Yeah.
Oh, whoop, whoop. And I'm also the Chief People and Equity Officer at Textio. And
Ooh.
I identify as she, her, Black, Christian, Gen X wife and mom. And that is the most important job I do. I'm a wife and mom of 4.
I love it. I love it. Rocki Howard, always welcome. And Rocki's been on my show, the podcast, a couple of times. You're an OG on my show, Rocki, and I appreciate you. And we are excited to mix it up here. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the HR Morning Show. We're here live every Tuesday morning. We're a podcast. Whoa, we are part of the Purple Acorn Network. We have a lot to get to today, but before we do that, Danielle, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, it's spring is springing in New York City, so
Allergy
I'm
time.
very affected by the weather. I don't know about you.
I am doped up on allergy pills. I will tell you
Yeah.
that, because if I don't have those, my
Sorry.
son and I get it real bad. We're sneezing and coughing. And do you ever try, Rocki? Remember when your kids were little, trying to put eye drops in a 7-year-old's eyes? It is like I'm torturing him. I'm holding him down. It is bad news.
Not to compare your kids to dogs, but right now our dogs have the
Wow.
allergies, and we're trying to get the eye drops in the
Oh my
dogs'
gosh.
eyes. And it's crazy because,
I
like,
can't imagine.
the pollen on our cars here in Florida is
Look.
like this thick. It's
Yeah.
no thick.
Yeah, my car's yellow, but I have to clean it once to get like the initial grime off of it, so it
Oh.
could re-grime. And I have a dark color car, so it just gets all yellow, and it's bad news here for everybody. But guys, this show is interactive. We need you to get involved with the comments here. I know it's usually Joel's job, but Danielle and I will try to
Hold down the fort.
Yeah, but get involved. Good morning, John.
What's up, John
Baldino John in the house. John Baldino. John
I love
Baldino,
it.
what's happening,
Love
man?
it.
Morning,
Hey, good morning.
friend.
Well, we're going to get this show started in a little bit, but follow us on LinkedIn. We're getting close to 2,000 followers. We need you to join in. We are on YouTube. We're a podcast. We're here every Tuesday. But guess what, guys? It's time for headlines. This is a good one. Let's get to it. It is not a Simpsons reference, folks. What are we getting into here, folks? Danielle, what are we talking about today?
All right. Well, we're talking about how JP Morgan, with our famous and favorite person ever, Jamie Dimon, is replacing the E in DEI for an O. And now they're calling it
I'd like to buy a vowel.
We bought a vowel.
No.
Basically, employee resource groups will continue to focus on their mission, which is engagement, cultural celebrations, but they're focusing on trading the equity part for opportunity, which is
Okay.
it's a move. It's a move.
Rocki, what the hell does this mean?
Rocki.
What does this mean? What does this mean?
Over to you.
You're the expert here. What does this mean?
Look, straight up, first of all, if any DEI person tells you they're an expert, go look for another one, because we're always learning and growing, and none of us are experts. So
Fair. Appreciate that.
There's your tip for this morning.
Pro tip. Rocki
Look,
Howard, pro tip.
when I first saw the article, look, here's the truth. We know that people are going to be shifting and changing, and we're trying to work around this new era that we're living in. Let's just call it an era. So we know we're going to see evolution in the language. Good morning, Nikki Russell.
Yeah.
Good morning.
We know we're going to see changes in the language, right? And so I got to tell you, when it first popped up, I thought, well, this might actually be one of the stronger repositionings I've seen, except because honestly, DEI has always been about opportunity.
Correct.
But look, when I saw the commentary going, it was never about equal outcomes. I feel like we should have a noise there that goes wah, 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 wah. Because opportunity without equity ignores the reality that not everyone starts from the same place.
Mm.
And so like you know, this feels like a dilution in what it's meaning. I have to tell you what also is really interesting is because equity is not about guaranteeing equal outcomes. It's about addressing the fact that we have people who are not starting from the same place.
Right.
So if you're talking about, we're going back to this meritocracy and DEI are not mutually exclusive, but it does take systemic change to be able to get there. So I got to tell you, like, this could have been a win in my mind, but where we're going with this, I
It's,
feel like,
well, words matter, right? Like
yeah,
words matter, and I think opportunity is not a bad word, but the source of where it's coming from, is this just a PR move for them to try to get in the good graces of, I don't know what they're trying to get in the good graces of, because I don't really think he cares. But opportunity is a very important, strong word, because that's an end result of what this output should be when it's done intentionally and right.
yeah, but we can't leave behind the systemic barriers that
Right.
create it. And for me, that's where the real opportunity is lost. Because if you're saying you're not trying to get to equal outcomes, then what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it as like it helps for me with visuals, right? It's like where is the starting line for people? And it's like in a race, you know, you have the people on the outside have the shortest distance, right? They start the furthest forward, and the people on the inside start the furthest back. And to me, it's like, well, where are you guaranteeing what opportunity to people? And I think the way that you framed it, Rocky, like it just brought that visual into my mind, and it's just so clear. It's about where the starting line is.
Interesting.
Well, and here's what's also interesting. Have you guys seen the documentary on Netflix called Untapped?
No.
All
No, is
right.
that the one they premiered? Is that the one they premiered at Transform?
No.
No, that was a different one. So Untapped is this documentary that examines the growing opportunity gap in America. It's on Netflix. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. It's
Mm.
really great to watch. But what's interesting in that, because it focuses on skill-based hiring and it talks about the different challenges to getting into corporate America, to
Mm.
getting into a job that, you know, different people have. And Jamie Dimon is on there acknowledging, he even talks about like, if you come from this background, walking into our building must feel like a different world. Okay, so
How
now are
so?
we saying that we're not going to continue this work? You're not going to continue to move forward skills based hiring? Or are you capitulating to the politics? And I do want to say this. I have two things that I think are really important to say.
Shoot.
One is that, look, we also realize there's a business imperative, and the new administration is making it really scary for certain companies, and they're trying to make sure that they protect their businesses, right? I get that,
It's
right?
performic, right? I mean, come on.
Exactly, but which performative is it? Is it
It,
performative to assuage the Trump administration
yeah,
or do the
I,
work?
no, I think they're just using it as an excuse to clean house and not follow
Hmm.
things they want to do and cut investments. I call bullshit on. I call shenanigans on a
Yeah.
lot of it. I do. I see it. We all see it.
I agree with you in a lot of cases, but I do think we need to be careful about making those judgments when we don't know a little bit more. I'm not saying we don't know enough in this situation, but I've seen a lot of places where we are judging what
Be
companies are
informed.
doing. And when you know what's
And
going on behind the scenes, they're not moving away from the
And
work.
let's talk about it. So I think there needs to be more for especially public companies, more data transparency when they're making these decisions. And they could say, listen, we implemented it X years ago. Here's what was effective. Here's what worked. Here's how much we invested into it. If there was more transparency, people would be able to see the full story instead of just making assumptions that you're alluding to. I completely agree that we're maybe throwing out the baby with the bathwater on a company. Oh, they dropped DEI and B, but wait a minute. Maybe they actually just didn't do it right and it was a poor investment and maybe they need to reset.
Mm.
Well, and let me tell you something. So at Diversiology, we're working on a white paper that we're going to be launching, and it's called DEI at the Crossroads. And so to your point, we talk about these 10 trends that people are seeing and doing. And I just think like we have to understand, to your point, like, did it not work?
And why?
Do we need to do something different? Are we trying to shift? Are leaders getting what they need? Where do the practitioners believe we need to change? What went well and what didn't? Did we have practitioners in seats that could do the work? Did we put the wrong
Right.
people in the seats in the first place? Like, there's lots of questions here that we need to answer. And one other thought here, like we're highlighting the stories anytime a DEI resource is taken out of the organization. We're quick to highlight that story because it plays to a narrative that we're
Right.
playing. But you don't hear if that company eliminated marketing resources or accounting resources or sales resources.
No, it's only the polarizing ones, right? That
Yeah.
cause a news story here. So, I mean, where are we at? Let's just do a little quick litmus check. I mean, we're early into this new administration. There's a lot of tea leaves out there. A lot of companies are following suit. And like, where are we standing up for the good? Where are we standing up for intention? Or is it, let's just play devil's advocate here, is it the time for a recalibration to make sure that we're doing these initiatives for the right reasons in the right places in the right companies and not just putting it because we have to?
I think it's time for, so a couple of things. 47%, like in the research that we did, 47% of the leaders are quieter because they're a little bit scared, right? Like they don't know what's going on and what's doing. But in the work that we did, I do for Textio, we hosted a series of Textio talks and we did conversations with about 100 clients. And when we were doing those conversations, we did an anonymous poll with our clients, right? And I think it's important to know it's anonymous so people didn't feel like they had to, fake the answer. And what I was really encouraged by, we asked the point blank question, are you investing more in DEI? Are you staying the course in terms of your investments? Are you decreasing your investments? Or are you just holding because you just don't know? And what I found to be interesting is 85% said that they were holding their investments, and about 20% of them said we're investing more. So again, I think now, those are also companies who are not going to go on LinkedIn and tell you they're doing it because they're scared shitless to do that.
Right.
Right. Behind
But
the
I
scenes.
think that might even be more important. Like those companies are more important, right? Because it's like, well, they're operating in a quieter way, but they're still doing the work.
They're
And
still
that's the
doing the
important
work.
part.
Yeah.
So final thoughts here, Rocki. What are you optimistic about in this space?
You know
What's
what?
good changes coming?
Yeah, I think the optimistic part is we're separating the wheat from the chaff, right? And I'm gonna, just come out and say it. I think if you go back and pause, you might remember this. In 2020, I was saying this is not sustainable.
No.
Like we've got all of this stuff. Everybody's throwing money and throwing positions and throwing out. This is not sustainable because we don't have strategies. We don't understand what we're trying to accomplish. We don't know how we're going to measure it. We put anyone who could spell DEI in a DEI role. We took influencers. I love you, influencers. You have a role in this, but we put influencers in practitioner positions. And here's the fallout. The other thing that we do that I will say that will poke a few bears is that we canceled people. We excluded white men from the conversation. We canceled people from the conversation. You can never get to inclusion by excluding people. And so what I'm really optimistic for is that now is the time to really double down on our commitments, really reflect on what inclusion means, what diversity means, what representation means, what accessibility means, what belonging means in our organizations, and now put strategies, operationalize it, and look for outcomes that stand up to the principles of DEI and meritocracy.
I dig it. Well, we want to hear your thoughts in the comments. We'll keep the conversation going. This is certainly a hot topic, and it's not going anywhere. Rocki, thank you so much for your input and thoughts there. Let's keep it moving, guys. It's time for Make a Left Turn into Event Roundup.
Well, we got a big one. It's called ERE. And it is going to be, I'm going to be going back to Vegas because I am doing a session on stories that recruit, retain, and engage Gen Z talent. So that is me. I'm going to be speaking on the first day of that. And then also Joel will be up there talking about how recruiters can use video to fill their roles, which is so exciting. I honestly love that they're incorporating more influencers into the into the stages. I feel like ERE is one of those conferences that probably needs some new vibes and new voices. So I love that. Shout out Evan White, or White Evan. And yeah, I'm excited. I will say I'm happy that it's going to be off the strip.
Yes.
Because I do not want to be back on the strip after being there 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm probably going to visit the spa while I'm there, to be honest.
Do it. Take advantage of that. Treat yourself.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm doing something a little bit different from what I normally do because I give this keynote quite a bit. And I'm going to be actually taking a lot of the best practices that I'm seeing right now. So it's going to be very relevant, very actionable, with a lot of examples of what I'm seeing companies do in their job description specifically to recruit and attract the next generation. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then what's happening after that?
Well, we have Unleash in May, which is back in Vegas. TBD on me going to that.
Might as well just stay. It's like a week later.
I know. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's after ERE.
Yeah, well, you and Joel are going to represent. You're going to represent Purple Acorn. We got the tribe out there. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for these guys to try something new, to switch it up a little bit. I love the idea that it's off the strip. The resort looks beautiful, and it gives people an option, right? We all go to Vegas all the time for these events, so let's just switch it up. And everything's all in there. You don't really have to go anywhere. If you want to go to the strip, you hop in an Uber if you want, but you don't have to. It's a little bit more relaxing, and it's easy to get to. Direct flights,
It's also, I think it's going to be a smaller conference than Transform, so that's really cool. I've honestly been reached out to by a lot of the speakers, my fellow speakers, which is really nice. It's nice to feel welcomed. It's nice to feel people reaching out and just saying hey, and I'm excited to see you and meet you. So that's cool. It's like people I've never met, never spoken to before. So that's really nice. I'm excited.
Yeah, good stuff. And then we'll start talking about summer events. We'll start talking about fall. There's so much going on. Rocki, what do you got coming on? We were talking beforehand. You got a keynote coming up in your hometown, Chicago. What else do you have going on?
I do. So next week I am heading to ProcureCon. So I'm excited. I'm going to be reuniting with some of my mom project peeps. I'm working with Michelle Sims and the UPro team. We're actually going to do a bit of a preview of the documentary that I talked about. Nice. So if you're attending ProcureCon, come join our private lunch. We're going to be having a discussion there. And then I'm also going to be heading to Talent Talks out in Scottsdale in June. I can't remember when that feels so far away. June. In June. And then the highlight here is in May, there's an organization called Little Black Dress. I'll be heading back to my hometown of Chicago, giving a keynote there. Little Black Dress supports minority females in communities to help give them exposure to job opportunities. And I'm so honored to do that keynote because that's my story. Like I was one of those kids that literally could have fallen through the cracks. And by the grace of organizations and people, here I am today. And so if we can help get that kind of support for others, I'm really excited about it.
Love it.
Love it. Love it. That's what we're talking about here. Loving this event roundup. So we're going to switch things up a little bit with scheduling. What do we have next? I think we're going to go to our first caller, right? Are we good for that with Elena? Rocky.
Yeah. Oh, there's my girl, Elena. How are you, my love?
You know, when I heard that you and I were going to be talking, I knew this was going to be fellowship and just less of a regular phone chat. So it's my blessing to see you.
It is always fellowship
And
with you
speaking
and
of Chicago,
what's up,
I
Bears? I
just
love it. I'm coming
you know,
home. I
can't help
can't
can't help myself.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Maybe you put on your bear shirt. I'll put on my Bulls one and we'll just rock it out, right? Maybe that's what it looks like. Look, obviously, we are friends and I know who you are. I'm so excited that Skill Scout is 11 years old. But for those in the audience, congratulations. Can you tell us about yourself, the queen? You're right, Evan. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us about what Skill Scout does.
Yeah, well, as a founder and a steward of this business, I feel our stories in some ways are one and the same. So my co-founder Abby and I founded what is now a creative studio, really committed to transforming ideas into action-inspiring visual experiences. And what that means in this space is what are we doing to create content, to touch the hearts of employees and candidates, to inspire them to act. So we proudly built this business on the shoulders of recruiters and HR. Uh, 11 years ago, when honestly I was still on stages trying to show recruiters why video and why media is the literacy of the 21st century, and the fact that if we're going to YouTube to learn how to braid our hair and get tours of the White House, we're going to YouTube to learn about jobs. So this certainly is a conversation that we've been having for many years. Um, and what's interesting now in this space is, look, everyone can do video, right? We've been given these tools, we've been given these technologies, and the question now is, what are we doing to tell stories to get people to really feel something? Because
Ooh.
inevitably, we are emotional buyers, not logical ones. And so this adventure has taken us to work with all kinds of companies, large and small, from your 50-person manufacturing job shops, which is how we started. So I know my CNC machinists, my tool and die makers, my iron cast workers, my steel guys real well. And then have had the blessing to work with Nike and American Airlines and McDonald's and Wendy's and Lowe's and AutoZone and all kinds of Fortune 500 companies. Because who would have thought, it doesn't matter what industries we're in or what size companies we're in, jobs mean something to people. And so it's been interesting to see this wave for us as we recognize the value of investing in quality storytelling. To
Quality storytelling. And you
and
know what? I believe sometimes I can show you better than I can tell you. So, you all, let's cue a video and let's show everybody a little bit about the work that Elena does.
We've all been there. The first day, the last paycheck, the interview that didn't call back, the one that changed everything. A job isn't just a job. It's survival. It's pride. It's a second chance. It's the thing that says, you belong here. But too often, hiring feels cold, generic, like just another number in a system. That's why we tell stories, real ones. The ones that make you feel something. Because work isn't just a paycheck. It's identity. It's dignity. It's the thing that shapes our lives. So when we tell your story, we make sure it means something.
I absolutely love that, because I believe we change the world one story one conversation, one action at a time. Your stories are going to lead to conversations and actions that will change the world. And here's what I'd love to ask you, right? You did a post announcing that this manifesto, basically your commitment of how you do work, and you described your work as survival, pride, dignity, and connection. And I'd like to know, share with us what in your experience makes a narrative undeniable when you represent a brand.
Repeat that question again so I can really feel it and hear it again.
Yeah, like when you think about your commitment and your approach to telling stories, how do you make that narrative undeniable, right? How do you shift a company's narrative to just a brand to something that's undeniable, that makes us feel?
So there's two things. I think there's both the personal story to this, but also let's really just inevitably talk about what jobs really are. Jobs are a high purchase consideration. When people are looking for jobs, this is not looking for a 10.99 shampoo bottle on Amazon. You have people looking at these jobs, looking at these videos and content, asking themselves some key questions, whether or not they talk about it this way. Things like, is this going to change the generational legacy of my family? Is this worth me uprooting my family to move across one state to another? Is this going to help me achieve the highest good for myself, the highest good for my family? And when we even just think about, and not even in modern work times, but even the last names we used to be called, it was by our work. We were blacksmiths. We were warriors, right? They were things that we contributed to this world for how we made a living and how we inevitably established the legacies of our generations. So I first want to establish that. And I guess I say that because part of how and why we come into these conversations is to help people remember that that's what this is. We can talk all day long about these job descriptions, about what the salary is, and about the insurance, and about the benefits, but inevitably, it's because we got to get them to feel something. We got to get them to remember the why for this. And so much of it is just helping, us establish first the level set of that. And then I would say, just from a tangible, tried and true principles, it's looking at principles of marketing. And I think some of the best efforts that we have seen in this space is when talent acquisition and marketing comes together. Because inevitably, right, it shouldn't be this is the employer brand and the business brand. If we're doing this right, these are one and the same.
Yes, yes,
And that
yes,
we're able to tell these stories is one and the same.
yes.
Just like Simon Sinek says, if you're employees of your company, your customers will love it too. And often, our employees are also our customers. So lots of tried and true principles, certainly to talk about, but these are some of the things that kind of we're coming into in terms of the mindset and the frame set for the work that we do to engage with clients.
I absolutely love that, because TA and marketing have to be hand in hand when building the company brand that includes the employer brand, right? So let's talk about this though, because I think people see videos like we just ran and they get scared. Many organizations associate great storytelling with big budgets. So talk about, like, how does Skills Scout support brands in communicating their vision effectively and in a cost efficient manner?
Yeah. And look, it's a little bit of yes and. So, sometimes it can require high elevated production value. Sometimes it doesn't need to. Sometimes there's a hybrid of both. But inevitably, it starts to get to, it all starts with a bit of the creative here, right? And so if I were to take you through a discovery call, Rocki, some of the first things I would ask you is, look, what do you want to accomplish? Like, let me understand. What are your goals here, right? Who is your target audience? what are your distribution channels? Am I thinking in 30-second reels? Or am I thinking, hey, 4 to 5 minutes because this is for an internal captive audience who has already gone through your interview process? And so there might be some more proprietary things that we can share with you. So part of it is certainly understanding your distribution channels as well. Also looking at what inspires you as a recruiting team, as a branding team. What are some creative references that you're bringing into the table so that we could start to speak kind of on a visual level playing field here? Because that also helps us understand where we're at from in terms of creative, in terms of budget. A couple of other questions I'm going to ask are, what are your mandates? What does this look like for you? What do you need to see? What should we not be seeing? What do we need to hear? What do we not need to hear? And what's interesting, and this is a hard question for people to ask, but certainly when we were filming job videos in the beginning, one of the questions we'd ask, and it was pretty brave, was to ask, why do people quit?
Ooh, that
Is people.
I could go on a whole rant about that because we don't use exit interview data to be able to integrate that back into our action plans and our brand. So I so appreciate that one specifically. You know what? Let's talk about another side of that. I can't be me and not bring diversity into the conversation. And so, from your perspective and from a storytelling perspective, how do we include honest but diverse narratives in the branding process and tell the stories not just of the brand, but of its people?
Yeah, well, I certainly have some examples I can share with you after this because inevitably, again, as you said, this is about showing, not telling. So the beauty about the stories that one can tell when we're looking at video isn't, to say, okay, yes, I'm, part of the Black ERG, et cetera. It's actually, like, let's just establish this is already what it is. And so now let's talk about why I'm here. So in many ways, it's a lot easier with video because we don't necessarily have to knock it on people's heads as it is to say, these are the personal stories that we are prioritizing and want to elevate in our organization. And in fact, when we can make it about what inspires you, what is about, the quality of the work that we do here, and what drives you, that's the relatability factor. So that inevitably when we can talk about, diverse voices, that this isn't just relating to you, it's relating to all candidates and employees. So it should be so much more of a unifying factor to kind of bring people together.
I love that. And question for the leaders who are listening, what stories are you prioritizing and telling, right? So as we wrap up today, I'd love to ask you this, like, what's one piece of advice you would offer to leaders who want to bring that humanity and authenticity to their brand storytelling?
I think, two things. One, if this is what you're trying to do, if you're trying to bring, authenticity and creativity, like, be a consumer of the content. Number one, like, truly. Like, and I get called out on this and get brought to the mat by my directors all the time. Like, Elena, like, be a consumer of this content. Like, watch dope-ish. Like, watch dope stuff. And so part of this is, knowing that, like, if we're here in recruitment marketing, it's because, like, we are truly consumers of the content, number one. And I would say truly most immediately is find out what marketing is doing, make them your best friend, see what existing assets they might have that you could potentially use already, and start to have those conversations to see what are the Venn diagrams of the stories we're looking to tell that we can do together.
Well, there you have it for the experts about what's one thing you can do to start. Joel, we see you in the comments. We miss you this morning, but I can't say it any better than Joel did. Dang, this video is dope, and your work is dope. So tell people how they can get to you if they're interested in learning more.
Yeah, you can, check out skillscout.com. To check us out, check out some of the work, and more importantly, really some of your colleagues who are doing some of the greatest work of our industry and will continue to. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I mean, I live, sleep, eat, and breathe this. This is my calling. This is my ministry.
It is your
So
calling.
I'm here, for all of the brainstorming and help us really elevating this industry and the stories that we tell.
Well, it is your calling. I'm a fan. We at Purple Acorn are a fan of yours. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love you, darling. We'll see you again soon. And I think we're moving to Surge next.
Love Elena and Skill Scout, but I do want to jump into the weather, and it's a beautiful morning here in Canada. But for today's weather, I want to talk about something very specific. I want to talk about the US federal minimum wage, which has been frozen at $7.25 since 2009. That's almost 15 years ago. Back then, Obama was in year one, and the Black Eyed Peas had a feeling. Since then, the cost of everything, rent, groceries, even coffee, has soared, while $7.25 has lost around 30% of its value. Yet, we still have nearly 1 million Americans still earning this wage. And there's plenty of others that are making just barely above it. So if you're also wondering about tip workers, this is shocking. They make $2.13 an hour. Obviously, they make tip, but $2.13 an hour is outrageous. Meanwhile, to their credit, there's 30 states and cities like Chicago that have raised wages. And if you look at the federal government, I think they pay around $15 at least. But right now, for the last 5 years, Congress has a proposal for $17 an hour, and it's been gathering dust. We've done nothing about it. And if we compare globally, the US, the great US, ranks 19th in minimum wage. It trails Germany, trails UK, Luxembourg, and Canada. So if we think about it, this is not political, it's basic survival. If we keep the wages frozen while the costs have skyrocketed, we all know that, it's pretty outdated. It's completely out of touch as well. So the forecast is still bleak for some minimum wage workers, but it's time that we all force the issue. That's the weather. Let's get back to the panel.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we're not raising wages. I mean, it seems like a simple thing that the government could do, regulating mandatory minimum wages. Why not? Well, if they're controlling it, they might as well. I mean, that makes sense, right? They are at the controls.
Mm.
Well, what's the conversion rate?
Do you tip?
Well, no, seriously. Good. What's the current conversion rate? All right. So yeah, it's still more. And then to Danielle's point, what's your, like, here we have this crazy tipping situation going on here. I don't know if you're feeling it over there. It is
100%. It's ridiculous.
like defaulting to 100% tips on everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have to opt out of tipping. And it's hurting service workers. It's detrimental. People are having I didn't mean to jump in, but people are having, the reverse, reaction.
Yeah.
When you're forcing a tip down somebody's throat and and then you're putting them on the spot and they're in front of you in your face, well, first of all, I don't care, but a lot of people feel it.
Well, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see like where America's ranked globally when two things compared to cost of living, which is like an important consideration that I guess we're not even talking about. And secondly, when you factor in like average tip size. Because I don't know. I don't really care about rankings if like we're not considering the context of them.
And is it our responsibility as consumers to lift up other service workers? Like, is it our responsibility to cover that delta between their wage and their tip and like what they bring home with a tip? Like, is that on me as a consumer, or it should be on the government to raise their wages, right? Like, what do you think, Rocki?
Well, I think it's really interesting because with the tip culture, what's happened is we're oversaturated. So like when I go to my favorite chocolate store that's down the street and I get a malt, I like that's part of what I'm paying for. Like you're not serving me, you're like getting me what I'm paying for. And yet like I still feel obligated to tip. Why? Because you handed me the cup. I also have a daughter that is a true server and a bartender, right? Who gets that $2.13 an hour, and she's hustling and she's working and she's bringing your food and she's
working for tips.
And I'm amazed at the number of people who don't tip her, tip pretty crappy. And so I think we have to recognize like tips are made for service, right? And service is not handing me my McDonald's bag or my malt shake, right? And then I also think I want to get back to the minimum wage thing because it's creating other issues in terms of the economy. So I have 3 baby adults that live at home.
Whoa. What's a baby adult?
Yeah, like a baby adult for me are the people in their 20s who actually work full time. One has 2 jobs, but guess what? They can't afford to move out and be in a place where their little yuppie selves would consider it to be safe, right? Like, look, I like seriously, and I did this as a kid. Like my first apartment was in the hood. If I look back on it, I should have been really scared to live there. I don't want that for my kids, but they can't afford on their like, and none of them make minimum wage, but even at the raised rates that people are hiring them, they can't go and live in a decent apartment and pay, and afford food and electric bills and gas bills. And my God, the insurance rates for their cars. And like now we're putting tariffs on the cars. So the cars, if they buy a car, is going to cost like what the hell is $7.25 an hour supposed to get someone? And that is 280
minus taxes. That's before taxes. It's half 30% taxes. There was a report that came out. I don't know if anyone saw it that said there's a very large population of Gen Zs who are receiving up to $1,500 a month from their parents. It's because they have to. It's not like entitlement. It's like my kid's not going to survive, and they live at home. Well,
a large percentage, and some millennials still live in their parents' houses. I know personally a lot of like people are moving into their family members' homes.
Getting back to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Which isn't bad, by the way.
I know. I'm actually a big advocate of multiple generations in a household, and also there. It's complicated. I live in my parents' apartment in New York City, but they both have now moved to different states, so I'm a lucky one. But at the same time, it's like there's still this sort of you have a hold on me, and this kind of mentality because I'm not fully.
You're a baby adult.
Yeah,
you're a baby. You are a baby adult.
Guys, I am what we're talking about right now.
You're an adult in training.
That's a different conversation, totally. But I think we can all agree it's time to raise the minimum wage across the board.
Yes.
To give you context, 25 years ago, I was making $6 an hour in my part-time job.
What was the job? What were you doing?
Well, my first job that was part-time was at a cell phone store. So I was selling
beepers.
Cell phones. Beepers was the thing, right?
Beepers.
TJ Sparkles over there. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So let's raise the minimum wage.
Yes, let's raise the minimum wage. Let's raise the minimum wage. Serge, thank you as always for this great weather report. Good to see spring is starting on our friends in the great northern territories. Hopefully it's going to trickle down here. We have a nice day of spring here in New York, and hopefully it's going to get over to Rocki over in the Midwest. And that is the weather forecast. Thank you, Serge.
See you, everyone.
Thank you, Pod.
We got a caller. Oh! Wait a minute, before we get we are jumping ahead over here. I will totally get into it. First and foremost, big thanks to our friends over at ERIN. And before we get into the plug here, today. It is live on the podcast. Mike Staffy from Transform. Thanks to our friends at Greenhouse. Please go over to thepodcast.com. Check out my amazing conversation with my dude, Mike Staffy. We get into what it's really like to build a business. We talk about are employee referrals going to put good recruiters like myself out of business, and what is the current state of the economy and the job market. So definitely check that one out with Mike Staffy. And also, Snappy and ERIN have partnered to supercharge employee referrals with meaningful gifting. We're going to link that up in the comments. And we're thrilled to announce that new integration with ERIN, which will make it easier than ever to recognize and reward employee referrals. It's one thing to say, hey, thank you. It's another thing to show it. So Snappy's going to make that nice and easy. Check out that integration. And employee referrals is one of the most powerful hiring tools. And now HR teams can seamlessly incentivize referrals by boosting engagement, retention, and company culture. So shout out to ERIN. I got my slothy shirt on here. Yeah, big shout out to ERIN. And everyone check it out. And thank you to the ERIN team for their continued support of the Purple Accord.
I feel
we got to sloth you up.
Because I don't have a slothy.
I'm matching my sloth today.
You are slothing it. My kid has a sloth. He takes all my toys. I just give it to them. You know, it's like, what am I going to do with it? Just play with it in my office all day long? Come on.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a baby adult. I'm an actual large, mature, older, middle age, whatever the heck you want to call me. But I am young at heart, and I skew down in age. I could play baby adult if I need to for a TV show. Like I have range.
I'm not actually a baby adult. It's April Fool's. Hello.
I am actually 26 years old. I have just aged a lot in the last. Well, thank you, ERIN. What do we got next? We have a caller coming in.
We have a caller. Hello, Rollis. Is that how you pronounce your name? That's such a cool name.
Yep, right. So you can call me anything. Just don't call me late for dinner, okay?
Okay, I won't. Never late, always on time or early. Well, hi. How are you doing? My name is Danielle. It's so nice to meet you. Where are you calling in from?
Nice to meet you. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'd like to say on my team, I feel as fine as frogs here right now.
I love it. Well, I have never been to Houston. It is definitely on my list of places to go. I am actually headed to San Francisco next week, so it's gonna have to wait maybe a few months. But I am excited to talk to you because I am so curious. I read a little bit about you. You've been in recruitment since 2004, and you've been in. I know. I'm revealing too much. Let me know when to stop. And you started doing recruitment videos and content in 2016.
Yeah.
So you are what I call an expert in my mind when we are talking about content and content specifically for recruitment and hiring. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm really interested. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit more about like what your background is, why video, why content, what's interesting about that to you?
Well, and I overheard that the other lady you had on earlier. She was awesome the way she was talking about telling stories through video. I agree. On our end, it was more functional than anything because we were working on some orders that we were having a very, very hard time filling. We're working on some orders in another area. It was an area where we were recruiting for nurse practitioners at the time. They could actually hang up their own shingles there. They could do their own practice. We were trying to figure out a way to kind of coax them or kind of at least get them to think about the opportunity that we have with our client. And we found out that video helped us kind of cut through some of the noise. And we started working with it. We did it for some other clients. And it just kind of took off to the point we went from full-scale continuous recruitment to full-scale video production and recruitment marketing. So that's kind of a metamorphosis kind of went. It's a funny story. My first time I went on a video session, that was quite interesting. If you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how green I was to video when I first started in 2016. I brought my iPhone. I was ready to go to record my client. I also had my iPad with me too. Somehow, in all of my wisdom, I did not bring the right tripod. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. My client's here. I have one of my recruitment assistants with me. What am I going to do now? So I actually had to use my recruitment assistant to be my human tripod for the next couple of hours.
Yeah. That makes sense. I've dealt with that too. I'm actually going when I go next week to SF. I'm going for a conference, and I'm like literally I on Amazon currently are a few different tripods and like stabilizers. I'm beefing up my accessory game, I think. I would call it. It's so important, and I think, a lot of people are new to video. I'm hearing a lot about the LinkedIn video. I've gone viral several times on LinkedIn.
Oh, nice.
And we've also talked about it here on the HR Morning Show. Do you have any like specific tips as far as like how to create really good content? We heard a little bit, earlier from Elena about her take, but I'm curious to hear from you as well.
I'm kind of on the other side. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of on the functional side. So for me, and for whenever we interviewed nurses, doctors, therapists, we asked them, what do you want to see in a video to learn about a job? And there's three things they basically say they want to know. They basically want to know who they're going to be working for, who they're going to be working with, and what's the work environment like. Those are the three things I heard over and over and over again in dozens of interviews. So we started to think, okay, how can we do that? How can we portray all those things in a very short amount of time? So we make sure, and we did interviews. We did interviews with actual staff on camera, whether it's going to be the hiring manager, who their boss is going to be, or if it's going to be co-workers who they're working with. That's the theme of that. Or if it's just going to be showing shots of where they're going to be, right? Maybe if it's in an office, or if it's the field, wherever the job is going to be. Typically in healthcare, all of our things are inside. So what's the operating room look like? What does the patient room look like? So those are the three things that we make sure that every video tries to at least touch on, or if not, be the main part of it. So most of what we do these days are anywhere from 15 to around 45 seconds of showing a bunch of what we call B-roll shots, just action shots of what it's like to be there in the environment, kind of immersing the viewer into the environment, if you will.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes to get their attention, and we found that it's really those B-roll shots that grab their attention in the first 5 seconds. So we got to have some movement, some shifting. And then, of course, we need to have some information going on, too. So we usually interview someone from the client that's talking about that specific job. And we've all heard it many times that people don't leave companies, they leave managers, right? So it's good to also have who they may potentially be working for and who they may potentially be working with. And so it's nice to have authentic voices within that department. Because let's say I work at a hospital, but maybe my job is in the ER. Well, my experience working in the ER may be very different from someone who perhaps works in administration and finance. So we need to make sure we have those different departments involved in the video and not try and have a one size fit all. So for that reason, we end up creating as many as 100 videos a year per client.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. And, the other thing about this too is like, I feel like when you apply to jobs, a lot of the times just you're blind applying. You have no idea what your day is really going to look like, what your team's going to look like. And I'm actually doing, I mentioned it earlier, I'm doing a keynote next month about how to retain and attract Gen Z talent. And one of the things that I'm really going to hammer home, and I am looking for examples of, is like companies that show and kind of speak directly from the hiring manager in the job description. Like, hey, I'm Ashley, and I'm going to be your manager. And like, this is what I'm looking for. And here's what I'm expecting. And, here's what a day in your life would look like. And here are the types of projects you're going to work on. And so I feel like the best job descriptions kind of take you inside a day in the life of what that role is going to look like. And not even just a day in the life, but like potentially a year. Like, why are we not talking about earnings season and what that feels like, or the end of the year, what your availability is going to look like? Are you going to get busier at the end of the year? Are you not going to get busier? So I feel like we could do a better job, in this industry of like just showcasing what an opportunity actually looks like in like to the average person, to whoever is applying, to the candidates.
Yeah. These are things that we did not learn, Danielle, just because we were smart, right? No. we all went through making bad videos first. So we made a lot of videos that weren't really grabbing people's attention, and that caused us to ask those questions. And that's one of the things that they talked about. They just want to know what it's really like. Like one time, we had executives on the video, and I asked one of the nurses what they thought. She says, "Well, I like having executives on there, but I'm actually going to be around them very often. I'm never going to see them. So it's really more important to me who I'm actually going to be working for. Is this person a jerk? Are they nice? Is it somebody I feel I can get along with?" Those are things that crossed my mind. So I was like, oh, you know what? That's true. So we just still have executives on some of our videos, but I would say like more like 80 to 90% are going to be those who would literally be working with on a daily basis. Unless it's for an executive role, which we do recruit for executive role.
Right.
Then, of course, you would have all executives on there. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's what people want to know. You know, one doctor asked me, "Hey, can you have some shots of people just in a meeting? Like, what's a huddle like? I want to see that in the video." Okay, so we start doing huddles. You know,
Yeah.
it just comes from trial and error, basically.
I love that. And then, kind of to think about, the new age problems, I guess we're dealing with, and the new age solutions. I'm curious to hear more about like AI in the process and how you're incorporating that, given that there are so many tools. I mean, I'm using them on a daily basis, right? Like between Opus and Descript and, a bunch of others, like I'm really leveraging those to help me create content. How are you thinking about and leveraging AI in your process and in the content that you're also creating?
Well, because we're also wearing the recruiting hat too, AI has really helped us in both areas, not only with video, also recruiting. So one very practical way to use Opus, as you mentioned, by the way, I've used several of them. Opus is probably my favorite, not probably, it is my favorite so far, because it does have a nice interface. You're able to upload the video. It's able to use AI to extrapolate the best, most, what we call viral content of the video, and helps to separate those out. It gives a nice little score per video. So if you got like a 99 or a 95, it's going to be much more engaging than a 60 or a 65. And so we love that. So here's one quick way we've used it that I think would be valuable to your listeners is we'll do like a traditional like Zoom type interview with the candidate. And then at the end of the session, after they've recorded it, we'll upload that into Opus, and Opus will tell us where the best parts of that interview. Now, we'll give the client access to all the clips. However, we want to make sure they're not in order by the timing, but in order by how compelling the video is. And so instead of us having to figure it out, my recruiter having to figure it out, we let AI figure out the most viral parts, because we all know that interviews don't always start off great. You know, maybe an interview starts and then it goes up here and then it may go down, or it may have some peaks and valleys. And so let's let AI find those, and let's see if the client, whoever the hiring manager is, wants to watch more. If they want to watch more, they can. But if not, they could just go on to the next one. So it saves them some time than having to sit through 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of the video trying to get to the good part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love Opus. I think it's a great tool. I use it a lot. Especially when you have a longer video, it's fantastic. And no, this is not an ad. I'm sorry, but to sort of wrap us up here, can you share with the audience where we could find you and more about what you do?
You can find me. I'm pretty easy to find. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube. Any of them. Wallace Fountain by my name, first and last name. Whether it's on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I've got a
All of
profile
them.
there.
The
Yeah,
whole gamut. Sounds
exactly.
good. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Rollis. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Appreciate it, guys.
Oh, let me get my camera back on. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me get my camera back on. Jeez, I was off. Gina, what's happening?
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing all right. We got some good audio. Sorry about that before. We had a little bit of technical issues there, but now we're cooking with fire. Gina, welcome to the HR Morning Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And hey, listen, you're live. So that's just
Anything-
part of the experience and it's
Anything
fine.
goes. Anything goes here. So before we jump in, I'd love to give a quick introduction. Tell everyone who you are, who you work for, and what you do best.
Sure. I'm Gina Alioto and I lead brand and marketing for Shaker Recruitment Marketing. and my background is in experiential marketing before experiential was a buzzword.
Before it was a thing.
Before it was a thing. And I'm passionate about all things brand and marketing.
So how did, just real quick from your career standpoint, how did you fall into this world of recruitment marketing, this wonderful magical world that we never knew existed until we got into it? We're like, whoa, what is this magical land?
The way that I describe it is I feel like Alice in Wonderland on the other side of the looking glass.
Oh, it depends what side you're looking in or out of, right?
Exactly. And, I came from consumer marketing, and then I came into this industry. I started working for a startup that was going through a major transformation at the time, and was brought in to help with their brand and marketing transformation. And so I never looked back. Now it's been 10 years. It's also kind of like a time warp.
You cannot go back. Once you enter, you cannot escape this. But we love Shaker. For everyone out there, tell everyone real quick about Shaker, what you guys do over there.
Yeah, so Shaker is a recruitment marketing agency, and they've been around for nearly 75 years now. And they help brands from the smallest, local Chicago brands to global brands like FedEx, T-Mobile, Warner Brothers, and they help guide brands through any of their hiring challenges. So anything from branding to talent attraction to navigating the MarTech landscape and sifting through all of the exponentially growing technology that's out there to their analytics. And we can help with any or all parts of your recruiting function.
Love it. So what I like to say is if you want to stand out and attract the top 1% talent, you got to do what 99% of the other brands are not doing out there. What are you seeing is probably one of those, let's give a little secret sauce here. What are you seeing working? Maybe an underutilized, an underassumed kind of tactic marketing strategy that companies need to be doing more of for talent attraction?
So what we're seeing a trend in, and it's in the Vision Report, which is an annual report that Shaker publishes. And this year's big theme is Be Bold.
Be bold.
And it is almost as if talent leaders across the space might not even know specifically what that is, but the fact that they want to be bold and they have a sense of urgency to do that now, act now.
Well, let's pause on the word bold for a second there, because it could be a little bit scary for a brand. They're like, oh, are we going to step out of our box here? How are we going to be bold? But if you're not being bold, you're not representing your values. You're being the same in a sea of sameness. And you're not going to use that to attract talent and retain talent. So what are some of those guidelines or approaches when you consult a client on how to be bold, how to identify those values and traits which make them unique and different? Because every company really is.
Yep, there's many different layers here, and I completely agree with what you said, and value. So value-based everything. What is your purpose in getting to the core of your employer value proposition and your employer branding? And then delivering that value, communicating that across every touch point across your employer brand and recruitment marketing operation. And doing that transparently, truthfully, true to your actual experience. And as Joe Shaker says, it's about creating the right message with the right activation, achieving the right conversion. That is the formula. That is the secret sauce.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm just going to give one extreme example, and this is not a Shaker client. I saw a job posting on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and the founder was very transparent. He's like, we are in building mode. We are working 50, 60 hours a week. We are grinding over here. And there was a lot of backlash there, but there was also a lot of positivity. We're saying they are being open and honest. Here's who we are right now. We work weekends. We're a team here. We're getting things done. And if that's not you, we're gonna purposefully try to talk you out of it. How does that translate to a larger organization when they really want to talk about their work culture and values? Because listen, not everything is about work-life harmony, different products, different industries, different lifestyles. How do you communicate that to your advantage as an employer to attract the right talent?
Yeah, exactly.
Without being polarizing,
It's a huge challenge. And hey, maybe a little bit of polarization is not bad. It's not a bad thing, so that you attract the right talent that's right for your brand. What I always have said throughout my career is that you can't be everything to everyone.
Then you're nothing to nobody.
You can try, but then you become a bland, not a brand. And so if you truly want to be a brand, and you should understand and really take an interest in who your audience is, and understanding that, dissecting that, be surgical about it, understand who's in my audience, and getting crystal clear on that. Because then if you're not crystal clear on who your audience is and what your point of view is and what your message is, why would anybody follow
Why would
you
they?
in that case, right? If that is the goal, right? And it's okay that you don't appeal to everybody. In fact, I think the best brand in marketing, you shouldn't appeal
No.
to everybody. You should appeal to your audience and do that really, really well.
You can't be everything to everybody, or you're nothing to nobody. It's just not. It's just not going to work out from that standpoint. So let's talk about the findings here from this visionary report.
Sure.
High level, what are some of the key takeaways that we really need to be mindful of,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can implement?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is the biggest piece, right? We're talking about this be bold, but now how do you go about doing that? Something that really stood out to me this year that I was very happy to see was all the talk about analytics. I always feel throughout my brand and marketing career, analytics is always an afterthought, and we have to front end that analytics goal of how do we wrap our arms around our analytics, ensure that all of our systems are not only integrated, but returning reports that are actually actionable and usable for us. Because if you're not applying the findings, then you're just reporting for the sake of reporting, and that doesn't help anybody.
No.
So getting your arms around analytics at the beginning of the year, drop everything that you're doing right now, get your arms around the analytics, and a partner like Shaker Recruitment Marketing helps you do that. We don't push our own proprietary platform like many others do. We, in fact, are partners with everybody in the industry, all of the best tech vendors, many of whom contributed to this report. And we were able to build you an analytics dashboard that's completely comprehensive, so you could bring everything together and get real actionable insights from that.
So what are some of those key performance indicators that we look at on a dashboard? With just being, we'll be very general here. We're not going to talk about any specific client here, but what are we looking at? Are we looking at the candidate experience and whatever metrics we're using to measure that? Because those aren't always equal, right? You could send a candidate a post-interview kind of, assessment or, a review, but how many people are self-selecting to do that? What kind of data comes in and what are we looking at?
Mm-hmm. So it can be anything that we're seeking to track. So they could be brand awareness metrics or recruitment marketing metrics. And especially when we are seeking to improve the candidate experience, which is a buzzword in and of itself,
Big
right? So you have to dissect that with a whole bunch of KPIs and what creates a good candidate experience. We're also now in a world, and it's becoming even more important, but we're in a world where you're being inundated with content, whether it's the job seeker or in mainstream marketing, right? Everybody's being inundated with content. It's getting exponentially harder to connect with candidates, and personalization is becoming more and more important. So that is going to become a more fragmented way of collecting your data, and then having that all together in one cohesive dashboard is going to be super important.
What was something that was maybe like an aha moment that came from the data from one of your clients? You're like, wow, we never would have known that unless we really lift up the hood and check the oil and the temperature and figure out what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Well, in not necessarily a Shaker, but in my career in HR tech, one of the most fascinating things that I learned early on was a brand was marketing to within their workforce, they had truck drivers. And so they're marketing to their truck drivers, assuming that most people are on their smartphone, and then realizing that many of the truck drivers at the time were actually using flip phones. And so they weren't even getting in touch with their audience because of the way the means.
They had no idea what their tech was.
By the means. And so, so that's exactly what I mean by really understanding who your audience is. And you're going to have multiple audiences, maybe by job types or by region. So you're going to have different audience types, understanding who those are, how do they consume information, where and by what means do they prefer, and then really understanding that and marketing to them in that way.
Does the report dig into different new channels, for example, like how companies might be utilizing podcasting, for example, to reach audiences of new employees and to re-engage, current employees?
Mm-hmm. So the vision report is a report that brings together all of the brightest minds, subject matter experts on any of those topics that you just mentioned across marketing, across recruitment marketing, to clients of ours, who are talent acquisition leaders, recruitment marketing leaders, employer branding leaders, to all of our partners and the technology founders of all of those platforms that are available to us, hundreds and hundreds of platforms that are available to us in HR tech, to industry experts like yourself and other podcasters. And we asked one very simple question: what is your best piece of advice for talent leaders in the year ahead? And we brought in all of those insights into this report. Some talk about some creative means of marketing. Others will get into why analytics is so important. Across all the findings, everything drives towards that North Star of be bold for this year. But when you dig into the report, it gives you all of those different ideas from each of these people.
Be bold. Be bold. It's such a, how do we turn that into an action off of a buzzword, right? How do we motivate our clients, especially at Shaker, to take those chances and take those risks, especially if they're risk adverse? And you have to lead with data. You have to show that it stands out. You have to show that things work. What are some of the other trends you're seeing in this report as far as, change management when it comes to people operations?
Yeah. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, because the more and more I've been in branding and marketing for a long time. And the more and more I move forward and as the world evolves, I realize that brand and marketing is not really brand and marketing. It's change management. And we're all, and I'd also like to reinvent the term change management, because
what are we changing change management to?
And what are we managing? Because are you really managing it at all? Yeah.
Change mismanagement, sure. You can call it what you want.
Yeah, almost like change channeling, and then you're channeling
channel shifting, shape shifting,
right, towards the the outcome that is most beneficial to your business. You're channeling your change towards the outcome that is most beneficial.
We'll workshop this offline, Gina.
Right?
Don't worry about that. We'll put a pin in the actual name culture and culture of what we're calling change management here. But like from an output standpoint, right? Like there's so much noise out there. There's so much competition. And I think from a technology standpoint too, let's shift for a little, just talk about technology.
Sure.
Right now, the technology, in my opinion, all the AI tech that's out there is trying to solve a volume problem and not a quality problem. How do we get back to utilizing the tech to really sift through quality through all this noise and volume?
Exactly. And quality is, the outcome of quality is what is right for your brand, what is right for your business. So it's not just quality talent, because yes, it might be quality talent, but if it's not the right fit for you, then you're not driving results at all, are you? So that is a key piece of it.
Let's touch on social media for a little bit. What are some of the cool innovations you're seeing? How are brands using, TikTok and Instagram Reels? Are they showcasing their current employees? Or we still have a lot of these companies using kind of clip art, looking images. Oh, look, we're diverse. Like, here's a picture of everyone in the rainbow. Like, how are they doing things differently and more effectively across social media?
Driving back to your employer value proposition and really defining what your employer brand is, what you stand for, what your purpose is, and really understanding your audience and speaking directly to them. And the more closely you can connect your brand to what your audience values and who you want to attract and who you need to attract for your business, those are the brands that are succeeding. Those that are doing the clip art and, standards, like you just mentioned, the standard, and also that facade that's very plastic and not true to who you are, it'll be very short-lived, because you might attract those candidates, but then I would love to see the metrics on the back end on how many people dropped off or quit, or quick quitters. I would love to see those metrics. Maybe you're winning talent, but then they're falling off in less than a year later.
So some final thoughts here coming out of this report. How do you start to formulate the 2026 report as far as direction? Let's give a little alpha here, a little secret sauce.
Yeah. Yep. Behind the scenes. So
BTS, folks.
Right. This year's report is out now, so anybody can see the vision report by Shaker. And now we're going to start asking all of those groups that I had just mentioned before, subject matter experts, talent leaders, recruitment marketing leaders, industry experts, about what are they seeing working in this year, and now what is your vision looking forward, because things are moving at rapid speed, and so we need to stay ahead of the trend. So it's not a trends report. This is looking at what's next. What are we doing next?
It's a vision report. It's a vision forward report. That's why it's visionary.
It is.
I love it. Gina, where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
connect with me on LinkedIn and check out shaker.com and reach out to me personally. I love having conversations like this. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Let's keep it going. Let's get you back on soon. Gina, have a great day and a great rest of your week. Thank you for hanging out with us on the HR Morning Show.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Take care. All righty. That was a good one. The audio was good, and we apologize before. We're having a little bit of technical issues on the past guest. We do apologize for that. Hey, it's live. Anything can happen. Rocki, thank you for sitting in with us today. What are your thoughts? Some final thoughts from Rocki Howard. Let's go around the horn.
Oh, I think you're on mute.
You're muted.
Unmute happens. It's live and we do it, right? Now, I just want to thank you all for creating this space for real conversations, real reactions, and getting to know the people in our community. I appreciate all of the Purple Acorn team. I miss you, Joel, and thank you guys so much for having me here today.
Thank you for being
Awesome.
here.
Anytime. You are. I'm not even going to say it. I think I like her better than Joel. Should I not say that? I'm kidding. I love Joel. I love Joel. No, what's great about the HR Morning Show is that we have such a family and crew here over at the Purple Acorn Network. You're going to see a lot more new faces, fresh faces swapping in. We're just going to keep things fresh here. Danielle Farage, final thoughts for today from our baby adult in the room.
I feel like I learned so much today, honestly, from our conversation about DOI, to just talking about recruitment marketing. I mean, that was the main thread throughout all the conversations. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy spending time with both of you. So thank you.
That's how we do it, and we enjoy spending time with all of our friends tuning in from all over the world. Remember, we are a podcast. We're here every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 7 a.m. out on the West Coast. Fill in the blanks for the rest of the country that I can't figure the math out on, but you guys get it. We need more followers to get involved, so head over to Purple Acorn on LinkedIn. Follow us. Check out more, purpleacornnetwork.com. Big shout out to our sponsors. Thanks to our friends over at ERIN. We're also on podcasts on Spotify. So everyone out there, have a great day. Be good to yourself. Be better to others. And catch us next Tuesday morning for the HR Morning Show. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye. We are out.